Mike Pachelli here, coming to you from my studio in Nashville, Tennessee. For this lesson, I'll talk about the Beatles song The End off of Abbey Road. It was recorded in the summer of 1969, and it's the only song where all the Beatles play a solo, including Ringo, who never liked to play solos. At the end of The End, they do a live succession of lead guitar solos. Paul plays first, then George plays, then John plays, and they repeat this 3 times. So we'll talk about that, and I'll show you how to try to get the tone. For Paul's lead tone, I'll be using an EP booster, a Jetter Gold 45100, and an RC booster to get his tone. So that'll be the first one we get into. And the amps I'm using are a 1967 Fender Princeton Reverb and a 1967 Fender Deluxe Reverb. And to my ears, it sounds like the Beatles played, Paul and John played their Casinos, and George played Les Paul. So I'll play, for Paul, I'll use this Gibson E335, sorry, and the Epiphone Casino. All right, so the song starts off with some simple chords. It goes A to D, B to E, and on top of that, there's a little unison line where you go on the G string, bend the 12th fret up a whole step, and on your first finger on the B string, you play the 10th fret, and then on the B string, you bend the 13th fret up a whole step, and with your first finger, play on the 10th fret of the first string. So, and then just move that up a whole step. So on top of, you have, then you have this little walk up. It's basically an A. And what that is you play an A note, and then on the E string, it walks up 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And on the A string, chromatically from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then a D, C, A. Okay? Then Ringo does his thing, and after Ringo does his solo, there's some chords. There's an A7 to D7. And it sounds like he's probably fingering an A7 like this from, let's see, A string open, D string, 2nd fret, G string open. Those are 3 notes you hear primarily. And then a regular D7. And Paul plays his first line. It goes like this. Very Paul, very cool line. And like I explained in the lesson I did, The Genius of Paul McCartney, he likes to use fourths a lot. If he's on the 2nd fret of one string, he's going to the, 5th fret of one string, he's going to the 5th fret of another. So it starts on the B string, 5th fret, 5th fret of the E string, back to 5th fret of the B string, then 8th fret of the B string, 5th fret of the B string slid down to 1, 2nd fret of the G string, 3rd fret of B string, 1st fret of B string, and then a pull off on the G string from the 2nd fret open. So slowly it's. It's wicked nice, right? And then George plays this lick. For George's licks, I'm using a Les Paul, and I've switched to the Jetter GS 124. All right, his first line is this. So nice, right? So he slides up on the G string, 12th fret to the B string 10th, then bends the B string 13th, a little vibrato, and then lets it down. And then a little slur from same on the B string, 10 to 13, to 12 of the G string. Then little, like almost ghost notes, but B string 12 to B string 10 to G string 12, B string 10 to G string 9, little ghost note on that 9 G string. That's the D string 12, D string 10, A string 12. I'll do it slow. And that's just A pentatonic. It's so creative and so tasteful. Didn't do it right. So good. For John Lennon's tone, I'm using an Epiphone Casino, neck pickup with the tone rolled all the way back, and the GS 124. I find Lennon's licks are usually the hardest to emulate perfectly, and this one's no exception. It goes like this. Slowly, it's a double stop on the 12th fret of the G and B string and just hammered on to the 14th fret. So, and then 3. Little vibrato, and slide that down to the 5th fret. So cool. Paul's second lick is this. It's wicked good, isn't it? So it starts on the 8th fret of the E string. You kind of mute it if you listen somewhere in the middle of that. 5th fret of the 2nd string. G string 7th fret. B string 5th fret. So, alright? Then a little slide up to the flat 5. So that's on the G string. He slides up to fret 7. Fret 8 to fret 5 of the B string. And then 5th fret of the E string. 8th fret of the 2nd string. And then bends up the 8th fret of the E string. And then George plays this lick. For George's second lick, he plays in the middle position of the Les Paul and turns off his overdrive and does this. I love that lick. It's just a double stop on the 5th fret of the G string and the B string to the 7th fret of the D string. And then bends up a double stop on the 7th fret of the G and B string. And then a little hammer-on pull-off from 5 to 7 on the G string. And bends the 8th fret of the B string. So good. Let's see if I can do it slow. It's harder to do it slow. And then John follows with this. John's second line is a lot easier. He switches to his bridge pickup and plays this. So it starts on the E string. So open to 3rd. A string, open to 3rd. Open D string, 2nd fret. 3rd fret of the A string. Back to 3rd fret to a D. So that's D string, 2nd fret open. A string, 3rd fret, open D, open A. I'll do it slow. Right? Nice line. Paul's last lick is this one. And that's on the 5th fret of the D string, 5th fret of the G string, 5th fret of the D string again, to 5th fret of the G string. And then from 5 to 2 on the D string, open, and then 3 open of the A string. It's like going, but he goes. So nice. And then George does this. George's last line is amazing. It goes like this. I love that line. It starts on the G string, fret 9, slide up to fret 12. Then from 12 to 14 of the G string. Then fret 13 of the B string. And then fret 15, bend up, put some vibrato on it, and let it fall down. And then hammer on, pull off to 13, 15, 13 of the B string. I love that line. And then John finishes with this. Lennon's final line is just balls to the wall rock and roll. Again, using the neck pickup with the tone rolled off. Some double stops, he does this. Now what that is double stops on the A and D string 7th fret, to the D and G string 5th, to the D and G 7th, and then the 7th fret of the G and B string. And then a little A and a C sharp. D string 7th fret, G string 6th fret. You can either pull that with like your 3rd finger, but he pulls it pretty sharp, you know. Or maybe you want to use your 3rd and 4th finger. It's just great. After John Lennon's last lick, the piano comes in. It actually comes in a little sharp on the record, but I want to talk about the chords that happen to the very end of the end, because George Harrison plays some great guitar over there. So the chords are basically, it's a piano playing in A, then it goes down to a G over A, then there's an F chord with some movement. So if you play an F chord, and then take the on the G string 2nd fret, open to 3rd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the D, play a D minor chord to a G. So the D minor, make the 1st fret on the E string go to 3rd fret, 1st fret, then G, to a C chord, to a D over C, and then an E flat, to a F, and it ends on a C. So the ending is like. Now let's take a look at what George plays over that. So over those chords and the orchestra, George plays some of the tastiest guitar I've ever heard. On the A, he plays it. So that's just on the 9th fret of the E string, and then on the 9th fret of the E and the G string. When it goes down to G over A, he does the same lick, whole step down. right? Then it's retardant, the D minor. Now on the C, he plays a E note, and then this lick. It's so beautiful. So let me show you what that is. On the C chord, play an E note, and then he's just playing basically arpeggiating on a C chord. So that's on the E string, fret 8 to 12, and then on the A string, fret 10, D string, fret 10, G string, fret 9. So, and it's muted. Then he goes up to this C chord form and rakes. So on the, we'll go from the D to the E string, fret 14, 12, 13, 12. Plays the 13th fret of the B string, and then bends the 15th fret E string. Bending the 13th fret of the E string to 11th, and then bending the 13th fret of the B string. And then the 14th fret of the G string, 13th fret of the B string, and then bending up the 15th fret of the B string and touching the 15th fret of the E string to get like a C triad. That's so beautiful. All right, so now for fun, I'll just put it all together. Well, there you have it. I certainly hope you enjoyed this lesson. I truly enjoyed delving into it and figuring it all out. The charts and tabs are available at mikepachelli.com, and you could also drop me a note there. I answer every email. So until next time, I'm Mike Pachelli, and thanks for hanging out with me.